Howdy folks, RagingRaptor here, and I welcome you to a new leaked video. In today's episode we are going to talk about the Advents Calendar of 2020-2021. Why? Because the people over at the Daily Bounce were able to data mine everything out of it, which, you know, allows them to basically show us which tanks are going to be in the loot in a Christmas Advents Calendar, not loot boxes obviously. We already know this roughly, but yeah, it's not confirmed yet. We still need to wait for that a little bit longer. Now, obviously, I want to point out this list is subject to change. Chances are Wargaming may or may not change such stuff. They did this 2 years ago with the leaked black market, where they also changed some things around in the last minute. Could be the same thing here. However, this one right here doesn't really have that much of an importance. The only thing it really does have is, man, this advanced calendar is boring as hell for people like me, or for people in general which play the game for a long time and want to have some new content. There's literally not a single new tank in this advanced calendar. Now that's kind of boring, if you ask me. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to have a look about all this vehicle, giving them 2 to 3 sentences explaining what they are and what is like a little review, you know, a mini review of every single one of those tanks, so you know if you should get them or not. However, I do suggest to check out Skill for LTU, because he is most likely or has the time to play every single tank every single day. So that is a good thing for him. Like, seriously, watch him, it's great. He has an absurd amount of knowledge about the game and is an insanely good player. Let's quickly look at the 3D styles. One is the E100, it's this one right here from the last year's loot boxes, which is alright, might be a little bit expensive depending, like 6,500 gold, that's very expensive. And then we have the FV skin, which is, you know, part of this highway event, and is also, it's a very good skin actually, but it's for a tank I personally don't think is supposed to be in the game in its current iteration. It's a very annoying tank to play with and against, so yeah. But yeah, there's above around 6,500 gold, which is very expensive in my opinion, and I don't know, not worth it in that regard. Real quick, have a look at the TS5, which was the first Advents Calendar tank, and it's alright. Like, if you know what you're doing, it might be your jam. It can be a very good tank, you know, hull down, amazing DPM, but going hull down is hard. You aren't that fast, you are only going 26 kph maximum. That is slow. So you do have to get a feeling for the tank. You do need to learn how to read the map properly, but it's definitely not a bad tank. And yeah, shout out to the Progetto on the Mines map, which also was in our stream yesterday. So yeah, that is that. Today's offer, we have the Rheinpanzer, or the Shovel, how Edwin and Swatch would call it. It's a meme vehicle, period. It's not good. It's definitely not acceptable. It's a bad tank. And it doesn't even have the Rudy USSR feature, even though this is an American tank, you know. It's not good, seriously. It's just a meme vehicle. I hated myself for free marking this tank, or while free marking this tank. I highly cannot recommend this tank, except if you really want to have a meme vehicle and want to impress me and Edwin and Swatch. That's literally what it is about this tank, and maybe kill yourself while trying to free mark this tank. Seriously, it's not good. Next up on the list is the AMX 1357, and this is a just pure, solid, and very, 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 very fun light tank. There's nothing else to add. Like, if you are bored of the, oh, I camp bush ELC even 90 gameplay, which is super boring to watch, by the way, play this tank. This tank is so much more fun. You zip around, you have great gun handling, you have a great gun, you do pew 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 pew, and try to kill people as quick as possible with 90 alpha each. Like, it's a lot of fun to play. It might be a little bit expensive to play because of the premium rounds, which you sometimes have to use, or abuse rather, but it's a very, very good tier 7 light tank. And by the way, the next tanks which are coming, we are not going to be like in order, like they're just random. We don't know the order, so just keep that in mind. And let's move on to the next vehicle. And that's the Stridsvagn S1. Solid TD. If you like the Swedish tank destroyer branch, this is a tank for you. Really, there's nothing else to add. It has good armor actually, 30mm, meaning that basically every gun below 90mm of caliber will auto bounce you, while everything above 90mm will auto pen you. Just keep that in mind. But it's actually very good armor. It has great camouflage, obviously. and it has good mobility. Like, you can get around the battlefield fairly quickly, and you have a very, very potent gun, 288mm of base penetration. That is enough to penetrate basically every tier 8 tank in the game frontally. So it's a very, very, very good vehicle if you know what you're doing and you like the playstyle. If you don't like the playstyle, well, then I can't really recommend it to you. Next up, the Skoda T27. Yes, the tank which should have been in a tech tree and not as a premium. It's okay. Problem is, if you already have a Prosciutto, for example, this tank is worthless to you. It just has burst. It has a better burst than a Prosciutto, but the Prosciutto is, you know, it has an auto reloader. It doesn't need to go for burst if it doesn't want to. He can literally just clip you like a normal tank and has a very, very good DPM. Even got buffed for no fucking reason. Thanks, Wargaming. We told you, don't buff it. Just leave it as is. But Wargaming doesn't want it to do that, which is a pity. Yeah, it's not worth it, to be honest. If you want to have a crew trainer for the Czechoslovakian tree, I genuinely just think that the tier 6 one is better in that regard. Sure, it has other crew members, like you basically need another crew mate, which makes your commander being a little bit less good for training for the TVP. But to be honest, this tank is solid. You know, this tank is solid, and this tank is just really not worth it, and it hasn't got the outstanding feature to where I have to say, yes, buy it. It's a good, it's not a bad premium, it's an okay premium. It's maybe even you call it good, but Prosciutto just makes everything better. So this tank just hides in the shadow of the Prosciutto. Next up, we have the best tier 8 light tank, in my opinion. That's the LT432, and yeah, it's basically a medium tank on a light tank chassis. It has a very good armor for a light tank. You can play aggressive with this thing. It has 7 degrees of gun depression, which as a engineering student, I just have to say, what? Where the hell do you put the gun breach in this turret? It makes no fucking sense. Like, this is Russian magic right here. It's literally Russian magic. It's a very, very, very good vehicle though. Like, it's very, very good. Only biggest flaw is that it burns constantly from the front. So either you have to use rations with a big repair kit to repair your fuel tanks, or you go not for risky and just use the, you know, automatic fire extinguisher. And maybe you say, you know what, fuck the medkit, who knows, something like that. You can decide how you want to play this tank. But it's a very good vehicle, like seriously. Depending how the price will be, I guess we can just have a quick look. They say that the LP432 is going to cost 5,800 gold, which is fairly cheap. I highly can recommend this vehicle if it comes. It's so good for frontline. It's such a good tier 8 skirmish tank, and in my opinion it's better than the EBR because it has actually a very, very good view range, and it can be used as a scout as well as a medium tank, where meanwhile the EBR 75 FL10 is more of an attack scout, more of a gunner scout, where this tank is also very, very comfortable to use when you want to just do damage. Like seriously, it's such a good vehicle. Now we go from one of the best scouts to one of the weirdest and not really necessary scouts. It's the M41D. Point of this tank, I don't know. Like, it doesn't really need to be in a game. It's not bad. That's the point. It's not a bad scout. It has a very, very good DPM. It's a very, very good gun. But it kind of gets overshadowed by, you know, EBRs, because they can penetrate your front plate easily with HESH. They can penetrate the upper side armor with HESH easily, while the lower side, it's covered by the skirts. So that is good, you know. By the way, Wargaming, why not make those boxes have like 2mm of armor? Because if Wargaming would add those boxes to have 2mm of armor, that would be a very, very good buff against EBRs. Just saying, you know. Making the armor models a little bit better, that would be an amazing thing. It would be a very, very good feature to help people fight against the HE of the EBRs. Just so as a little input, by the way. But I don't think they're going to watch this video, because why should they? They know already, but it's an advance calendar. But yeah, I don't really see the point in this vehicle. The Type 64 is so much better if it is on sale. So get this tank, and the crew trainer potential, it's not that good because the tree is not that good. Ah, yes. British heavy tanks. The Caernarvon AX. It's such a good premium tank, my lord. No, seriously, this tank is amazing. It's when you know what you're doing, like knowing how to abuse your DPM and your 10 degrees of gun depression, damn, nothing else to add. It's a very, very, very good vehicle. I recently played a game on it on Mines, and if you're top tier, you can just dominate. Seriously, yes, lower plate is garbage, your cupola can be garbage, but be hold down and be retarded. Literally, it's so good in that regard. It's not as good as the Caernarvon, the Tech Tree one. This one is actually better and considered to be OP. But this tank is an overperforming premium tank. It's not overpowered, but it's overperforming. I know OP means overperforming, but it's like better than the rest. It's a very, very good vehicle if you know what you're doing. And for the people which were able to get this tank 4 credits as a premium, congrats, because it's a very, very decent thing if you know what you're doing. And another British tank up next, it's a Stridsvagn 81. Yes, it is Swedish, but you know, it's a Centurion Mark III. So, you know, it's literally the same shit with just a different name. It's a solid vehicle. I can't really recommend it though, because there is other tanks of the Swedish Tech Tree for crew training. That's a Lansen C, which we're going to talk about just a second, which is so much better in my opinion than this thing. Plus there is the Centurion 5A1 RAAC, which is a better Centurion than this thing, okay? It's a solid vehicle, but I wouldn't buy it if it comes on sale. So yeah, just move on to the Lansen C, the OG 320 Alpha Medium, and for being OG, it's still probably my favorite tier 8 premium medium tank. Like, sure, Progetto is strong, but I don't really enjoy OP vehicles that much, because I don't see the point in wanking myself one off because I'm playing, oh, my 279, it's so much fun to dominate people when they have no chance against me. I'm more of the, I hate myself, I'm playing Manticore for fun type of tanker, you know? But the Lansen C, it just has all the necessary things I really want to have in a tank. Sure, the gun handling is meh, but it's not as shit as the one of the Object 274A, and it just feels so good in general. Like, it has good DPM, it has okay penetration, has a great camouflage, and it's super quick. And it's just an all-round great, you know, package. I really, 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 really like this vehicle. So, this over this, 100% of the times, except for going hull down. Then obviously the Stridsvagn is better because of turret memes. But other than that, the Lansen C is such an amazing vehicle. I really enjoyed it, and again, applause to people which were able to get it 4 credits during the black market, because it's such a good vehicle if you know what you're doing. Next up, the E75TS, a weird heavy tank. Like, it's a heavium in the German Tech Tree from the latest loot boxes last year. I am not big a fan of that. Like, the gun handling is doo-doo. It is fast, it has decent armor, can get penetrated on upper front plate, by the way, but yeah, it's not my style. It's genuinely not my style. Like, there are better tanks around, and I personally would prefer the Lowe over the E75TS. It's simply, I don't know, I need to play this tank a little bit more, but what I've played so far, I don't really like about it. I don't really like it. Next tank, WZ111 Alpine Tiger, like this one with the weird camouflage. No point in getting it. It's expensive. I might get it because I have a lot of gold left, and I just want to finish up my collection of wasted potential. But it's not a good vehicle. Like, there are so much better heavy tanks around, even with special matchmaking. The crew potential, I think the heavy tank number 6 is Japanese, so this doesn't count. Crew training, sure, it's a good crew trainer, but for what? The 113 is not considered to be a good heavy tank anymore. It's actually so much fun, guys. Just a quick little detour. The 113 was, back in the days, one of the best heavy tanks in the game. And now it gets overshadowed by stuff like the WZ1111 5A, 260, and the 277, you know? It's kind of sad if you imagine that this thing, without getting nerfed, used to be one of the best vehicles in the game for heavy tank purposes. But yeah, the WZ111, I don't see the point in getting this vehicle, you know? It has bad penetration, you'll get fucked by defenders and Object 703 version 2s. And it doesn't really is a good crew trainer, you know? It is a good crew trainer, yes, but it's not for a line which is right now being used that often in competitive game modes. So that's a big no for me, because it's also rather expensive, just because it has special matchmaking. What does have special matchmaking, and I personally can recommend, is the Mutant, the M6A2E1. However, I want to point out, the problem with this tank is that this shouldn't be in my possession. This tank, as with the Panzer 5.4, should have been, you know, never being available anymore for me, you know, because I wasn't one of the early backers of the tank or of the game. So that's a bit of a pity, but I have to say I'm happy that I got both vehicles, because both vehicles are very good. The Panzer 5.4 is OP. Period. Tier 5, it's an OP machine. This thing isn't OP, but it's very strong and a lot of people don't know how to properly play against it. Yes, the cupola and the turret is weak-ish, and yes, you have special matchmaking with decent penetration. And it doesn't have good DPM, but it's good enough. Like, the gun handling feels okay, and the armor actually is very, very strong frontally, if you know what you're doing. And overall, it's a good vehicle, really. It's a really, really, really good vehicle, which is fun to play with a little bit of a sad backstory. Next up, the VK7501K, or KAK, or Doodoo in German. I don't like this tank. I'm not a fan of like super slow heavy tanks, and the problem with this vehicle is, yes, it has a good gun, 490 alpha, but the gun handling is garbage, obviously. And the problem is, if you miss a shot or bounce a shot, you are stuck there with your pants down for 14.5 seconds. You know, that is a long time. And the problem is, your lower plate is weak. You can get penetrated by this spot down here. You can get overmatched by 122mm guns up here, aka even a SU-100 can overmatch you here for 390 damage. You have a cupola, and so you need a lot of brain, like you have to be big brain time to play this vehicle. Because you want to hide your cupola, and when you're playing against a tank like an Object 703 version 2, yeah, you get fucked because he can overmatch you over here. It doesn't even need to see the cupola. So it is not a bad vehicle, but there are better around. Like, I genuinely think that the Lowe is a better heavy tank than this thing, because it doesn't have such stupid overmatchable spots, you know? What isn't a bad tank is the Object 703 version 2, like the last year's loot box tank. It's a 100% good tank. Like, this is one of the recommendations with the LT432 to get. It's such a good vehicle. The armor is good. Hide your lower plate, you have a very good upper front plate armor. Your turret armor is good. Sure, you have small cupolas, and you can get penetrated here, but it's still very hard to hit those. You have an amazing gun handling. You have a decent DPM still because of the two guns. And if you really want to be a dickhead, you can blap enemies for 780 damage on average, you know, with a single burst. Now, that is a lot of damage. That's the highest amount of damage you can do on a tier 8 tank. Like, imagine, you can basically double shot people for more than 800 HP. That is insane. It's a fun vehicle, really, and the gun handling is superb, genuinely. Like, it's so good. It's a very big recommendation from my side. Like, it's such a good vehicle. Ah, yes. OG tank destroyer, the Skorpion. It's still a very good vehicle. Period. It's nothing else to say. It's a very good vehicle, has a good gun, good TPM, good penetration, and it does make credits. Problem is that right now with so many EBRs around, back in the days and didn't have so many EBRs around, there were no, so they weren't a big issue with its armor. Sure, it can get penetrated by normal HE as well, but the HE of the EBRs is a bigger threat. It's a garbage crew trainer. Like, the crew trainer potential is shit. But it's otherwise a good vehicle. If you know what you're doing and playing like a paper medium, it's a solid premium. By the way, it's a TD and it just has 50 HP less than Object 274A. You know? Fuck the 274A. I still hate this tank. But yeah, the Skorpion G is a solid premium TD. Problem is, bad crew train. That's the only problem. But I still enjoy this tank, and I still really need to free mark this tank. I still didn't, because I'm stupid. And I tilt. Apparently the Lowe is going to be in the Advents Calendar as well, and I have to say, solid heavy tank. It's a little bit outdated. It got buffed several times. It's good. It's a good heavy tank, really. Biggest problem is the bad DPM, you know. But I prefer this tank over the VK. Why? Because it has better and more consistent armor. And it has a very good turret. It has 10 degrees of gun depression. It has an absurd angle upwards for just the memes. And it's just like, it's a solid heavy tank. It's not like an Object 703 version 2, which is considered to be almost overpowered, or like a Defender, but it's a solid heavy tank. So if you really search something for the German tech tree, don't get this thing if it ever got on sale, because this is garbage. Get this. This one is solid. That's a solid heavy tank, you know? Also, screw you, light. Suddenly there's light in my room. Ugh. I'm a dweller. I'm a gamer. I don't want sunlight. Next up, Lorraine 40T. Solid. Nothing else to say. It's a good medium, it's a good premium. If you know what you're doing, you can do a lot of damage. 1200 clip potential. It's a fun vehicle. Gets shafted by EBRs and artillery quite a bit because of its weak armor, but it has a lot of history in it and it's a fun tank overall. I really need to free mark this vehicle as it is a fun and good vehicle. It might be not your playstyle because it is hard to try and get the maximum out of this clip, but other than that, I genuinely enjoy this vehicle. It's a little bit sad that obviously it's not like the OG Lorraine on tier 9, like that we don't have this anymore just for, you know, memes, but it's a good vehicle. It's a fun vehicle and it's iconic, you know. It does look cool. It does look cool and I like it. Ah, yes, another OG TD, the WZ120 GFT, and it's not my jam. The gun is a little bit too potato if it's not fully aimed in and takes quite some time to aim in, but if it's aimed in, you have great camouflage, you have an amazing DPM, you have great penetration, you have an absurd alpha for its DPM, 440. Like, it is a very good TD if you know what you're doing. However, I don't know how to play this tank properly, so it's not my jam. But yeah, a lot of people will agree to say that this is a very good TD. Where meanwhile, this TD right here, which is our next vehicle, is potato. It's a meme vehicle. It's not as bad as the Rheinmetall Panzer, the shovel, but it's bad. It's still bad, okay? It's not a good vehicle. Problem is, very weak armor, huge cupolas, which are bad. Like, the turret itself isn't badly armored. And this tank even gave me something for my gun Mark. And for my Object 279. But the armor otherwise isn't that good, you know? So, not really happy. I can't really recommend it. It's a meme vehicle, yes, but I can't really recommend it. Next up, we have the Centurion RAAC, apparently an Austrian version of the Centurion, up-armored and up-engined. It's good. It's like the best Centurion version out there. It kind of feels like a Super Pershing without spaced armor. It's very good, shit lower plate, and shit side armor. Like, I got penetrated here by a Type 4 Heavy with HE. That hurts, because I don't have the side skirts anymore. But if you know how to play hull down, it is very bouncing and it's a very, very good vehicle, and it's kind of funny that I see not many people talking about this vehicle. It's the best Centurion out there, which is a little bit of a bad statement because obviously it's a premium, so it's the best Centurion, duh. But it's alright, it's a very good vehicle and I can recommend it if you need a premium crew trainer for your Centurion Action 10, you know. Because yeah, Chimera, it's a crew trainer, but it's more of a meme vehicle and it doesn't make credits, right? This one, yeah, it's OG, but it's not that good of an OG, you know? And this one, fuck it, that is bad. And lastly, the Somua SM. Solid, it's a solid tank destroyer. I know it's a heavy, but with its gun, it's very much capable to be a tank destroyer. Like, it's all good. It's good. It's a balanced premium. It is different than what the AMX 5100 is because it actually has armor which can bounce stuff. It has a very good gun, obviously. It has very good clip potential. It's fun. It's genuinely fun, and I can recommend this tank to be played. The question is though, do you really need this tank as a premium if you, for example, already have something like the AMX 50T or even the Liberté? Even though those two vehicles aren't good for crew training the 50B, this one is obviously better suited for that. But you know, you don't really need this tank if you already have premiums, and yeah, that's like, I guess that's the story of all those vehicles we were talking about. But in general, let's conclude. Best vehicles which I can highly recommend, LT432 and the Object 703 version 2. Those are the vehicles I suggest to pick up if you still have leftover gold. Also, there's one more thing. If you already have a vehicle and you're like, yeah, I don't really care if I'm paying 300 gold, you can purchase those tanks with gold, right? You will get an additional crew slot. You can see we get 6,700 gold back. You will get an additional slot, because that's the 300 gold you're paying basically. You get 525 XP multiplier for this vehicle, and you get a crew with 100%. So I'm going to do this, to be honest, because why not? There's no really point in not doing it for me personally because I have so much gold. And I like to get those 25 5 times crew XP booster. Daily wins, you know. But yeah, that is everything I'm having for you today. Sorry if this video was so long, but there were a lot of tanks to talk about. And this actually gave me an idea. Maybe sooner or later we're going to have a video where we are going to review every single tier 8 premium heavy tank in 2 sentences or something like that. That could be fun. That could be fun. My name is RagingRaptor. Thank you so much for watching and see you around.